Hello, good morning, and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are watching me from any part of the world. My name is Maurine, and I am a peace lecturer in training with the IWPG from Korea. I am here today because I want us to share our knowledge on war and to look at some of the basic causes of war. So today I would want for us to look at greed as the main cause of war. When we look at greed, we will see that greed has been translated in the from the time past to our present context, which has resulted to lots of war, where people have lost their lives, they've lost property, and even some nations have actually been completely destroyed because of war. And so for us to begin, I want to just paint a little scenario for us that can give us an idea of what greed can do. Imagine a toad, or imagine a toad sitting comfortably on a piece of stone and basking itself under the sun. And suddenly another animal comes around, looking at the toad and getting jealous of the toad, enjoying the warmth of the day, decides to come and chase the toad from the place of its rest. And the angry toad goes and looks for other toads who come around to fight back the other animal. And the other animal goes back and comes to with a huge number of troops to fight back the toads. At the end of the day, guess what happens? Everyone is destroyed. The property is destroyed. Even the stone that they were fighting to have control over is destroyed. That is how far greed can go within the human context. It is not today that war started. War started way back before the biblical times, and people died for different reasons. So we want to, first of all, define what greed is. What is greed? Greed is an inward desire to get what you do not deserve, to get what does not rightfully belong to you. And because it does not rightly belong to you, you are forced to go an extra mile just to satisfy your ego. So we are moving from that definition to look at the different ways, to look at the different causes of war. And if we were to look at what Michel Montaigne he describes, he says that the same reason that makes us wrangle with neighbors create war between nations, which means that war can begin in our neighborhood, it can begin in our family, and then it can escalate to a larger population. Now, why do we have war in our neighborhood or within us? The first thing is acquisition of resources. Many times we do not have what we need, and so we are forced to exploit other people, to extort other people to get what we need, and that is the source of war. Another very interesting thing is the fact that there is increasing national influence by territorial expansion. Many nations, when they start having their population begins to increase and they lack resources, they start looking for ways of expanding their territories, and that will mean that they are going to trespass on other people's national integrity. That becomes a source of war. Another issue is that there is a need for satisfaction, for the desire for conquest. There are some people who naturally just feel satisfied when they have kept other people in the position of desperation and in a vulnerable position, and because of that we have war. Equally, the propagation of political, religious, national ideals or protection of citizens can be the reason why people get involved in war and it becomes so destructive. We will take examples of war, and we are going to see how devastating the results were. The first war in our own time, which was recorded in 1914 to 1918, was the First World War. And this war, it was a very terrible war because in this time, European powers took the control and had other countries conquered as colonies. And these countries that they conquered as colonies became like it was an annex to their countries, and so everything within those countries were almost like theirs. They exploited the natural resources, they exploited the people, and because of this, there was a lot of tension. At the end of the day, those who were able to overcome other countries, they had to take over, and the citizens of those countries, they actually were colonized to become more like the European countries, which was a serious issue. The next one that happened was in 1939 to 1945, which was the Second World War. This is the war that had the largest number of casualties in human history. People died, properties were destroyed, and it was driven by greed, which came from the then ruling leader of Germany, Adolf Hitler. The main reason for this was for them to secure overseas territories and for them to have control over other continents, especially the African continent. This war cost so many lives, and a particular group of people, they were so destroyed within this time, and they were the Jews. And this one is what has happened in the Israeli-Palestinian war that has been going on for over 50 years, and it is still ongoing, just because they don't agree. We have the Muslims in the Palestinian side of the country, and we have the Israeli on the other side, who are Christians, and the Jews. And because they do not agree, and one person claims that their land has been encroached by the other, it has caused the loss of lives in that part of the world for so many years. Children, elderly people, young people, they die every time that we have this. And even as we speak, that has not been addressed, which still remains a serious issue plaguing humankind, and because people choose to be greedy over natural resources. We will come to another cause of war, and it's another type of war as such, which is terrorism. In the 21st century, people have gradually moved from having the world wars, like we had the First World War and the Second World War, and now it's more of the terrorism. And terrorism aims at achieving political, social, religious, and nationalistic goals for particular countries. And this is used most often to organize persistent violence against a group of people. Sometimes it comes along with violent threats and extreme destruction, even of property, even of people, even of nations. If we were to look at terrorism and we go back to Afghanistan, we will see that Afghanistan has been under the attack of terrorism for a long time. We look at the September 11 events that happened in the US that was so catastrophic, that brought down the Twin Towers in the US. That was extremism. It was extremism in terrorism. And these are ideologies equally that are sponsored by groups of people who think that they want to threaten or they want to overpower the world. And when this happens, it's human casualty that is the human being that suffers the most in all of these kinds of attack. We are going to leave from that one, and we want to look at I'll be coming back to an example, which is what I am very familiar with. We have internal wars. Cameroon is a country in West Africa, and Cameroon has two. It has two. Coming to internal wars, the recent case of which is 20 years back is that of Rwanda, that they suffered an internal crisis that led to the loss of about 1 million people in the space of 90 days. That was internal, and it was because of hate speech that was promoted within the country. And when I leave from there, I come to Cameroon to look at what has happened in Cameroon for the past 5 years. Cameroon is between the Central and West Africa regions, and it's a bilingual country with a majority speaking French and a minority speaking English. For the last 5 years, there has been an ongoing crisis which began very timidly and over the years it has grown even into a civil war. At the beginning, it was because there was a level of discontentment from the minority part of the country, which were the Anglophones. And during this period, they had struggled to see if they could dialogue and to make known their grudges, but seemingly nobody understood or wanted to pay attention. And gradually, it began like a little strike, and then moved on to a little revolt, and then moved on into ghost towns, lockdowns, and later on it became war, where we have the non-state armed groups fighting with the state armed group. And in all of these things, the human being has been at the center of the destruction. So many lives have been destroyed, churches have been destroyed, schools have been destroyed, children have been denied the opportunity to go to school regularly, and all of these things, they have kept the community less developed. Movement from one part of the country to another one becomes very cumbersome and burdensome. The entire town and the entire community is blocked by kidnapping, kidnapping for ransom. It is blocked by shooting, targeted killing. It's blocked by targeted killings. People have died. Even children have been killed in the war, and sacred places have been destroyed. People have been forced to migrate, to move out of the country. Some have become refugees in Nigeria, some have become refugees in Central Africa, and some people have become internally displaced within the country. All of these things have increased human suffering within our own nation, because people at different points have lost their jobs, they have lost economic progress, they have lost so much, even families have been separated. All these things are increasing the pain in the human heart, and it is a serious concern for us, and for me in particular, as a mother, as a woman, and as a citizen. And I come today to talk about this so that I can draw our attention, even as women, to know that there is a possibility that we can be able to step in and stop war. And for us to do that, it would mean that we can be able to start teaching our children, putting positive values in them, helping them to have family laws that can be able to help them tolerate people, help them to seek justice, help them to be able to love peace and to pursue peace in every way possible. That is possible if we choose to think that one person can change the world. I stand for peace, I stand against war, and if we put our hands together, for sure there is hope that one day the human race will live a life void of war, because we choose to stand for peace. I join the rest of the 3.6 million women all over the world to stamp out war in our communities. I stand to speak peace, and I stand to support women, girls, children, and even the men, for us all to see the need to stop war. If you have any questions for me, I am willing to answer them, because together we can do more. It is said that change comes when a group of people, a group of little committed people, stick on what is right, and that is the only thing that can stay. Thank you for listening to me, and have a wonderful day.